Hello, 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 everybody. It is I, Jmulls from Jmulls Gaming, back here with another episode of Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers 5.3. We are here to talk about my experience with the main story quest of 5.3. So, earlier today I did all of the main story quest, and I just want to give a brief review on it because I was expecting to get my highlights of my playthrough of the video, of the main story quest up today. However, the rendering is taking forever and I won't have time to get it up today, so I'll just make this quick review so I can get over some of my thoughts out. And I'll just do some basic tasks around Final Fantasy XIV. Note, I have not done Nier, nor have I done the Sapphire weapon quest. I'm holding those off so I can do them on camera. So, well, I messed that up. I don't know what to say about the main story quest. It's so good. Like, it's just really, 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 really freaking good. I'll give a brief overview of like what happened during it. So in the beginning, you go on what a lot of people will probably consider to be filler, and it kind of is, but I consider it more to be world building. Because this is our last main time to be in Norvrant for the main story, and it's just a final bit of world building to end it all, to wrap up the story essentially. And what it is we essentially help train 3 children for their respective dreams to become warriors of light. Like, we have this one little girl who wants to become an apothecary, essentially. She wants to go travel around and give people potions because she was saved herself by a wandering apothecary when she was extremely little, who came to a town and basically saved her life. So she wants to be like that. She doesn't want to be a fighter. So we show her around the infirmary, we have her go fetch grapes and stuff, and basically do odd little jobs for her. It's kind of charming, because it's like, it's showing that, yes, the world will go on once the Scions leave. Once the story of Shadowbringers is over, life will continue to go on in this place. And that's something pretty cool, in my opinion. And then you have the other 2 characters, the children, who also want to become Warriors of Light, but they want to be more in a combat role. So you go on a bit of a little competition with Alizé to go collect Bat Fangs. I think you can lose it. I won it. No humble brag. I won it. But I think you can lose it. Because it's kind of like the quest from Stormblood with Hien, where you had to go hunt, and whoever got the most amount of meat in the right amount of time won, or something like that. It's similar to that. I found the correct bat spawns immediately, because essentially you just look for the building spots, and you go for there. It was kind of fun. And then you really start to go into the meat and potatoes of the story. And this is a long story. I started like 7:30 in the morning, and I ended at like 1 p.m. Like, it's a thick story. Like, with 19 Cs. And so you realize that the Scions' etheric connection to their bodies back in the source is starting to wear thin, and you need to get them back fast. So, essentially, am I in the wrong one? Yeah, I'm in the wrong freaking Venta. Okay, so, what the hell, where's this Venta supposed to be? Hang on, am I stupid? Yeah, maybe. Okay. Gold saucer. Ah, here. Okay, let's just buy 18 of them. Why not? Okay. So let's move on forward. So, as I was saying, you realize the etheric connection is starting to wear thin. You need to get back to the source. You go talk to Y'shtola, who's also fainted because of the weak connection, but Elizabeth is there, and he kidnaps her. And he basically tells you, I want you dead. He has a bullseye on our head. He wants us dead. Because we killed La Habrea and Emet Silk, and they were his friends. And he wants us dead because of that. We're like, okay. So we follow his games, we fight him, we whoop his ass, as you'll see in the video. Well, no. I cut out the part of me whooping his ass because I have a bit of technical difficulties. I accidentally messed up my hardball for like most of the fight, so I just cut that out. You're not missing much. It's just it's a pretty cool fight. Not gonna lie. He has some pretty cool mechanics. I urge you to go play it yourself, but I'll have the story of it tomorrow. So you whoop his ass, your Shola comes back, she's like, oh hell no. I know who you are, Emet-Selch. I know exactly who you are. You're primal. Emet-Selch's a primal. He's the heart of Zodiac, who sacrificed himself for Zodiac's basically summoning. And he freed himself because his goal is he wants to save his world. He has a massive hero complex. He wants to save his world, and he wants to save his friends. Despite the fact he's too late. We already killed La Brea. We already killed Emet-Selch. Amurat's gone. There's nothing he can really do. But he doesn't care. He vows to find a way. And that's basically why he's been training all these Warriors of Light on Northrend. He's trying to make heroes. Because, again, he has a massive hero complex. We even learn about the very first Warrior of Light on, I believe, the first. And I believe the hint they give later on is that the very first Warrior of Light on Northrend, because there's been more Warriors of Light than just the ones we know, was Elidibus. Because he takes on the form of the first Warrior of Light during the boss fight with him. The trial fight, which is really cool, by the way. Like, they went off in that fight. Like, that fight's incredible. Everything about that fight. So basically, he tries to bring more Warriors of Light into the fold by activating another star shell, and that's when the dungeon really takes place. You travel across all of Northrend, essentially. You basically go from Amarang to Ilmag to Lakeland. And you fight some pretty cool bosses. I like the dungeon, personally. I think the dungeon is pretty cool. That video of my playthrough of the dungeon should be coming out Wednesday? No, it should be coming out Thursday. Yeah, day after tomorrow, because tomorrow will be my highlights. So, you do the dungeon, and it's really cool. I like it. You then move on to the Crystal Tower. You move on to the Crystal Tower, where... Yeah, I know I messed up on the other scripts. I don't really care right now. Where you go with, what's his name? Grahatia. That's his name. So you and Grahatia basically make a beeline for the tower because Elidibus has captured the vessel that Grahatia and I believe his name is Ludwig or something? I forget his name. I'll never remember his name for the life of me. They completed the vessels. And it requires the blood of Grahatia for the memory component. They finally figured out the memory component, and Elidibus is using the blood of Grahatia to summon in all the Warriors of Light throughout the dungeon. So you basically have to climb to the top. Grahatia stays back to hold off the Warriors of Light from other realms, while you go one-on-one with Elidibus, essentially. But you also, I forgot to mention, there's so many parts of the story that I keep forgetting to mention. And back in Amurat, you found this little, like, gem. And they call Hydlotheus, I believe, Hydlotheus? His name's something like that. Hydlotheus. Basically tells you, we call that a star. And all the members of the Council of the 14 had a star. And we found them scattered about Amurat. And the very last one, it goes to the 14th seed Azem, I believe is his name. And it's heavily implied that a player character is Azem, the 14th council seat, who basically defected from the rest of the Ascians. So that's pretty cool. And when you're fighting Elidibus, you use that component, that the star, to, I believe, summon very much like the Emmett Selk Hades fight, to summon your other party members for the trial. It's so cool. And then, during the boss fight with Elidibus, at 50%, you get this phase transition where he essentially banishes you to the realm of the Ascians. But you're rescued by the armored form of Emmett Selk. It's so freaking perfect, too. Because they don't tell you it's Emmett Selk. He just has the mannerisms of Emmett Selk. He has the signature snap and the wave of his hand. And that's how you tell it's Emmett Selk. And I'm a complete dumbass because I didn't realize it was Emmett Selk. I had to be told after the fact by a friend of mine that it was Emmett Selk. But it's so cool when you watch that again and you know that it's Emmett Selk. He came back to rescue you. And you find out that he came back to rescue you because he knew Elidibus was on his own, and he knew Elidibus was never going to succeed. Elidibus continuing to live was just making Elidibus suffer, and that's essentially all that it was. And Emmett wanted you to put him out of his misery. It's so perfect because they made Elidibus so sympathetic, and they really nailed that in at the very end. You might view that as a criticism or as really good piece of storytelling. I tend to go for the latter. We've had Elidibus around us for so long, basically throughout A Realm Reborn onwards. And we had this whole... hold on, let me just turn down the sound. Just want to make sure that the sound's not too loud for you guys, because we're about to get into combat. Basically, we known Elidibus for so long, and then we find out his reason for everything. And his reason's not even like a bad one. It's kind of like a noble cause in its own right. He just misses his friends, and his world, and his people. And he believes he failed them. And he just wants to make it right. He wants to save them. And he wants to avenge his friends, because we killed them. Like, we straight up killed La Brea, and we killed Emmett Selk, and they were his friends. And that's why he's hated us for so long. He originally wanted us to be a warrior of light. He wanted us to be a hero. Because again, he has this his hero complex, and he wants to make new heroes. Because he wants to save the world, and he thought we could be one of them. So he tried to steer us on early on in A Realm Reborn. But then he said, all my plans fell apart when you killed La Brea, and then you killed Emmett Selk. You killed my friends. So of course he's going to have a vendetta against you. That makes sense. He's a good villain. For so long, since like 0.1, because they just wrote Emmett Selk so good in 0.0, 5.0, I'm like, there's no way they're going to make Elidibus on par with Emmett Selk. That's my one main fear, and it was just like, oh, it all makes sense now. It all comes back around on itself. It's just so good. And it feels fulfilling, and that's what you want. Whether or not it's as good as 0.0, I don't think that's really the main point that should be had here. Elidibus is a great character. He's a sympathetic villain. And I personally believe there's two kinds of villains I consider to be great villains. One are villains that you completely detest, and you don't care about the events of the story just because you really want that villain to die. And you don't care what transpires from the beginning to the end, so long as that villain dies or meets justice. That's one way to write a villain. The other is the path 14 has been taking, and has been taking recently with Shadowlands. Not Shadowlands. With the Ascians. And I think it's such a good way to go about it. A sympathetic villain that you kind of understand where they're coming from. And sure, they have to die. They have to lose. You can't let them win. But you completely understand where they're coming from. Because in their own mind, you see how they believe they're right and that how they believe that they are just. They're sympathetic. They just... The main thing I really like about the 5.3 patch is how long it is, because it gives them time to truly develop this and not make it feel completely rushed. Because we got essentially almost all our answers for Olympus. I can't think of any question I have left. We now know what his motivation was, why he did it, how he did it, and we can kind of see where he's coming from. I just think that's a good villain and a good story to be told. And then we bring everyone back to the source with G'raha Tia in tow. They try and tease you a little bit that maybe he will, but he makes it back and he becomes a member of the Scions of the Seventh Dawn. We leave Rin back in Norfront, which I kind of was surprised about because I thought she was basically a too important of a character just to leave behind in expansion. But we still have 0.4 and 0.5, so maybe we'll bring her back, but we still have the Eden raid we have to do, so I don't know. There's still a lot of story to be told. And then they ended off with showing that Xenos is coming, and he's going to be coming hard. I feel like a main theme for 6.0 and the story moving forward will be fire, because they deliberately mentioned fire and inferno and words like that repeatedly with Xenos. I'm really looking forward to where this story is going, and they've also deliberately, almost essentially said that this story is coming to an end. The story with the Empire and the Ascians, it's coming to an end soon. And I believe that's going to be the next expansion. And then we'll have more stories after that, which I'm really looking forward to. 5.3 was just a great way to cap off what I believe to have been one of the best stories, if not the best story ever written for an MMO. Granted, I haven't played every MMO out there, but I haven't heard of a story that's this good. I just haven't. And it gives me hope for the future of this genre. Not even just this genre, but this game that, after so many years, like, we're in 2020 now. This game's been going for how long? Since like 2010 or so? And they can still write stories this good. And they're getting better. That's the thing. They're getting better. My only worry about 6.0 is how the hell are they going to top themselves? I'm looking forward to it. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure for making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. If you liked the video and you want to see more content, I know I would appreciate it, and comment down below. Tomorrow we got my highlight video of the 5.3 quest line, main story quests. The day after that, we will have my playthrough of the dungeon, the Hero's Gauntlet, a great dungeon in my opinion. The day after that, we'll be doing the Near Raid, and then the day after that, pending it's not Saturday, we will be doing the Sapphire Weapon questline. And Saturday, we have the Jmulls Weekly Gaming Recap, where I will go over 5.3 in more detail. So, thank you all for joining me. Stay safe out there. Have a great day. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody.